Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. Today, I'm gonna give you guys a little rundown on some fluking off the beach tips and tricks. Now, remember how last week for the 4th of July Open Boat, I said do not get sunburn? Well, that's what I did, so that's why I'm filming this one when it's foggy out, because I'm basically vampiric now, but instead of having a thirst for blood, I have a thirst for aloe. But I'm gonna walk you through this because there's a lot of elements that go into fluking, and sometimes if you're not thinking, you're like, what am I doing wrong here? You overthink. So these are some basic things that helped me out when I first started fluking off the beach. First thing, identifying structure. Fluke-like structure or little drop-offs. So if you're fluking on a beach that has a jetty, fish next to that. You can fish on the jetty if you have corkers, or if you have guts to walk on a jetty barefoot like I do sometimes. And you can fluke next to that because they love structure. And a lot of the times, fluke will hang out in a trough close to your feet. So that's another point. When you're bringing your jig back to shore, don't reel it in real quick when it's at your feet. Work it all the way until you hit sand, because they can be sitting in so close. There's been times where the water has been crystal clear. You're basically sight fishing for these fluke. Another tip, always use light tackle. 3,000 size reel, 7 or 8 foot size rod, easy peasy. Now, of course, like I did last week, you have your bait and rig variations. Switch it up based off the day. If it's a little bit more crummy out, cloudy, chartreuse. If it ain't chartreuse, it ain't no use. If it isn't pink, it'll stink. If it isn't white, it isn't right. There's a ton of different colors that you can use, and there's a ton of lingos that go. Every single tackle shop has their lingo for colors, but bring a bunch of different colors to use and you'll make it work. You'll work up a bite. The biggest thing when it comes to fluke fishing is you want to build up your steps. I love tracking my steps, so when you're fluking off the beach, you want to be constantly walking the beach. So find a spot on the beach, and then if you're not getting a bite, cast a couple times, you're not getting a bite, take a couple steps, either work your way down the beach, whatever direction you choose. So fish for a little bit. If you're not getting any bites, work your way down a little, and then keep working and working until you get into a bite. And a lot of the times, the fluke hang out with a little group. So if you get into one bite, you can get into more fish after that. So stick it out if you get one bite, stick it out in that hole and see if you get any more fluke after that. Now, the retrieval when you're fluke fishing. So you're gonna cast your jig out there. You don't even have to cast it super far. Cast it out there, and what I do is I let it hit the bottom. I jig it, 1, 2, 3. Reel it in half a crank. Jig it, 1, 2, 3, reel it in half a crank. And I retrieve that all the way to my feet. I bring it all the way in because I do not want to miss a bite. Now, if you're fluking and you have just, like what I have on, just a bucktail, and you have a grub as your bait, if you're using gulp, fish bites, American Bait Works, whatever you're using, those grubs are long and it takes fluke some time to chew them. So I wait for the 3 count. So if I get one tap, that's that fluke testing out that grub. Another tap, it's working its way up. That 3rd tap is by the time that fluke gets its mouth to the hook. And what I like to do after that 3rd tap is I'll lift my rod tip up just a little bit, and when I feel that weight, that's when I set the hook. So that's when you know you have that fluke on, is when you feel that heavy weight. Now, fighting a fluke off the surf, it's just like any other species of fighting a fish off the surf. Try your best to time the wave to land this fish. They're a little bit easier because they're flatties, so you're basically reeling in a frisbee off the beach. But the best thing you could do is time a wave and just slide your rod across like that, and you're gonna bring it up on the beach. Handling them, just grab them behind their gills. Try not to squeeze them. These poor guys, they're literally so flat, so it is hard to handle them. But if you squeeze them so hard, all their organs are right in that central area where there's a lot of meat to grab. So try to gently, I use like 3 fingers. I use my thumb and these 2 fingers, and I grab them like this, barely pinching them to hold them up. Even some of the bigger ones, if you get yourself a doormat, you can pinch them like that and even grab them down by the tail. That's when you know you can wipe your feet on that fluke because you got yourself a doormat. Now, next week, the sun is gonna be out. We still have cold water from an upswell, but I'm taking you guys fluking with me. We're gonna get some killies and we're gonna fluke some back bay, some river spots by me, and we're gonna get in some fish. It's gonna be straight up fishing. We're gonna humble ourselves here. It's not gonna be glitz and glamour of hookup after hookup after hookup. It's gonna be fishing, and who knows? Maybe I'm gonna get snagged, maybe I'm gonna catch some fish, but I'm taking you guys with me, and I'll catch you on next week's open boat.